Hey, everyone, we're about to get started. If we can find our seats, silence our cell phones, close the back door for me, if you would be kind enough, or the side doors. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. We are on the record. Today is Monday, the 18th day of September in the year 2023. This is a City Council caucus meeting of the Jersey City Municipal Council. We had a scheduled 4 p.m. start. The clock on my cell phone is showing 4:03 p.m. May we have a roll call for the commencement of this meeting? Councilperson Ridley.
Here.
Councilperson Prinzary.
Here.
Councilperson Baggiano. Councilperson Saleh.
Here.
Councilperson Solomon is not here yet. Councilperson Gilmore is not here yet. Councilperson DeGise.
Here.
Councilperson Rivera will be absent, and for also the council meeting, and Council President Waterman.
Here.
Okay, we have 6 council members present at 4:03 p.m. On behalf of Council President Waterman and members of the Municipal Council, in accordance with New Jersey Public Laws of 1975, Chapter 231, the Open Public Meetings Act, also known as the Sunshine Law, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the posting on the bulletin board of the first floor of City Hall. The annual notice, which is the schedule of meetings and caucuses of the Municipal Council for the calendar year 2023, and filed in the office of the City Clerk on Thursday, December 15, 2022. In addition, at its time of its preparation, the agenda of this meeting was similarly disseminated on Friday, September 15th at 5:25 p.m. to the mayor, municipal council, business administrator, corporation council, and the local newspapers, and posted on the city's website, so I can certify as to our total compliance with the Sunshine Law. Council President, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good afternoon. The first director is Peter Baker. Unusual.
Thank you, Council President. Mix things up a little bit. So I'm speaking here on Resolution 1024, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Jersey City, New Jersey, authorizing the execution of the legal services agreement related to PFAS litigation services. So very quickly, I'll summarize this. I have counsel here with me who can answer some more detailed questions. But just to keep it very brief, we have been invited to join what is a class action litigation regarding the PFAS, which are more commonly known as the forever chemicals that have become an item of concern as far as water supplies and other areas of contamination. As of right now, based on our current knowledge, the city is in compliance with state standards. However, in the next 12 to 18 months, the federal government is going to be releasing new standards that will be lower, and we want to make sure that we are able to enact whatever we need to do to bring the city into compliance with that. That's going to require some expense on our end as well as the JCMUA's front. They are involved in this as well, and they will be considering adoption and joining this litigation also. Just the short version of this is we're going to have to be in compliance one way or another, and we'd rather the corporations that are settling this fund that rather than the taxpayers and the ratepayers of the city. So I'd like to introduce counsel from Stagg Louisa.
Any question?
Who exactly are we suing and are joining a lawsuit against? Is it like the makers of forever chemicals, or is it like specific polluters that are known to have PFAS in their products that end up in our water supply? Can you give a little more clarity on this?
Thank you.
Can you bring the mic up to you?
Thank you for inviting me to meet before you. It is the manufacturers and distributors. This is a product liability case, so it's against the corporations that put these chemicals into the stream of commerce. At present, there are about 3,500 municipal water suppliers who have filed suit. The cases have all been consolidated in front of a federal Judge Gergel in Charleston, South Carolina. So all the cases across the country have been consolidated in a mass consolidation called a multi-district litigation. Right now, there are two major players out of more than 20 defendants who have agreed to fund at this point settlements. It's expected those settlements will be approved in December of this year. And the settlements total 12.5 billion approximately with the 3M Corporation. And there's 1.2 billion with DuPont. The settlements are being resolved as a class action. It's a complicated class action that will provide upfront cash money so that the municipal water authorities and public water suppliers can fund the infrastructure that's going to be needed to meet new EPA guidelines related to PFAS. It's expected that the EPA is going to promulgate new MCLs mandating PFAS levels below the current state standards to 4 parts per trillion for PFAS chemicals. And those standards are expected to be promulgated at the end of this year, beginning of next year. And so this money will be available to fund infrastructure programs. The court will appoint a special master who will allocate those funds based on the size of your water system and also the level of the PFAS in your water system that you're going to be dealing with. And there will be money available for future funding, provided you meet all the technical requirements of the settlement. And that money is related to additional testing, or if you need to build additional infrastructure to meet other areas where maybe conditions change, where there's new contamination, or if standards change in the future. And so that's the broad overview of the settlement.
Are you allowed to comment on the PFAS currently in the water supply in Jersey City? Have we done testing for it? I know we meet, federal state regulations for contaminants, but have we also done testing on the PFAS and seeing if they're gonna,
Based on my research, you have done testing. The state of New Jersey enacted regulations for PFAS in public drinking water supplies, and you meet those state standards currently. However, when the federal standards come out, they're going to be lower than the state standards. And that's not uncommon. That's the same situation with New York, Massachusetts, where I have clients, other states that regulate it. Some states don't regulate it at all. Fortunately, you're ahead of the curve in that regard because New Jersey really took a lead on making sure that there was testing of public water systems and setting some standards.
And I'll just reiterate that this is, there's no upfront cost. Actually, there's no cost at all to the city on this. We are just joining. Council will be compensated on contingency based on what is recovered. So there's no, it's a no risk and substantial award situation for the city.
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
McCann? Which resolution? Jerry, which resolution or ordinance? Which one?
Sorry,
Which one?
the first one.
3.1.
I sent everybody an email. I hope everybody received it. But I'm scheduled to speak on Wednesday and I'll get a little bit more detail, but I'd like you to read the email that I sent to all of you, as well as the pictures of the property that's involved. I believe that's a substantial problem and it's consistent with all the other things that we found in particular in the assessor's office. So I'd like you to at least read what I sent, take a look at the pictures of the property and understand the concerns that we have down at the Division of Internal Audit on all of these properties. I'll be here on Wednesday to speak more specifically, but I think that you should seriously look at the first franchise ordinance and look at the details that are in that email so that you can understand why I'm concerned about it.
Okay,
That I'll wait till Wednesday. Thank you.
anyone else? Questions? See, I get this list here. All right, nobody's here for 3.1?
Should this be tabled?
Who's here for 3.1?
We have the attorney here.
Okay.
The
'Cause he came as an employee because the employees fill this out, okay? And each employee explained to the council whether it's a resolution or ordinance. And so I call them by name as I receive them. Now, Jerry McCann is here as number 2, and he said he's for 3.1. So I wanted him to explain what is 3.1, what are you here for? But now I have the counselor in front of me to explain it. So if you're not here to represent an ordinance or resolution, you really shouldn't fill out this form. That's what this portion is for, okay? So that's why. I want us to stay accordingly. That's it. I don't need, because a staff member should be here to justify 3.1.
Council President, the attorney that's representing the petitioner is in front of you here. If the council has any questions.
Presented this, no one. Who uploaded?
This comes from our office. We put the ordinances, the franchise and vacation ordinances on the agenda. And then we ask the attorneys to be present for any questions or comments for introduction.
Explain the ordinance to the council.
Certainly. I'm not aware of the email that Mr. McCann had referred to. I haven't received any copy of
Giving
anything.
you, I know you're not aware of it, but I'm giving you opportunity to explain it because it is on our docket. That's why I'm trying to be fair across the board.
Certainly. With regards to the franchise ordinance, this is in response to the site plan approval that this project received last year. This is an adaptive reuse of a older building. Effectively, what it is the facade of the old building is being preserved and will be incorporated into a new 6-story structure. In order to do that, and in order to comply with the flood hazard regulations, things had to be lifted up. In order to do that, we have to have, in order to be ADA compliant, there needs to be a ramp into the front door along with the front stairs. That ramp is encroaching out onto the sidewalk area. So that's the purpose of the franchise ordinance. So initially, my client wanted to just completely demolish the building, but upon review by the Historic Preservation Office, they found that the facade was of interest. And as a result, they asked my client to incorporate it into the new design, and they did that. And as a result of that, we have this franchise ordinance. The second part of the franchise ordinance is, again, as part of the design aesthetic of the building, there's a sign that's going on the side of the building that's, again, out of the public sidewalk, but it encroaches over the public sidewalk. So again, that just requires a franchise ordinance in order to put the sign, once the building is complete, onto the side of the building.
Any questions? Go ahead. Go ahead, Jane.
So what is this sign?
It's going to be for one of the commercial users of the sign. I think it's for a restaurant use. Okay. It's like placemaking.
Anyone else?
So the ramp that you're talking about, how, from a square footage perspective, how much space will it be taking?
It's part of the ordinance, and I have a member of the development team that can give more detail on it, but the ramp is only 5 feet wide according to the documents that we provided. And there's still significant sidewalk space. So if you look at Exhibit B to the proposed franchise ordinance, there's a copy of the franchise area plan. And then if you look at Exhibit C, what you'll see is that we're talking about a 5-foot area across the front of the building. So there's still sidewalk space in order for the public to walk in front of the building.
How much money are you giving the city for this?
Sorry?
Are you paying the city anything for this?
Generally, no, because it was a request as part of the site plan approval process. And in order to be ADA compliant, this is something that's done in order to be compliant.
You also have a concurrent tax appeal at the same time.
I'm not aware of that. I'm not handling any tax appeal matters on behalf of this client.
Questions? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shirley?
Shirley from Treasury. I'm here for 10.4, Resolution 23-715. That is a resolution amending contract to NW Financial to increase the PO by 60,000 from here till the end of December.
Question. Point four.
10.4.
10.4.
Shirley, could you just summarize the work NW is doing for the city?
They do various projects, so it's financial advisory for bonds or I can get you that information, but it's different projects, different people who use them. So it's different, it's about 12,000 per month, but it's about 4 or 5 different invoices.
Okay, yeah, if you could summarize that, that'd be great. Thank you.
No problem. Anything else?
Thank you, Shirley. Dennis?
Council President, I just wanted to mark Councilperson Gilmore present at 4:06 and Councilperson Solomon at 4:07. So we have all 8 council members present. Thank you. Dennis?
Hi, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Madam President and members of the council. I'm Dennis McIntosh, Department of Finance, Treasury Division. I'm here to present agenda item 10.3, resolution 23-714. It's authorizing the award of a contract for SHI International Corporation for the purchase of Westica software through the National Cooperative Purchasing Alliance for the Department of Finance, Division of Management and Budget, and Department of Treasury Debt Management. Questions?
Question, guys? No? Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
And just of note, council, this is our budget software that we use annually.
Good evening, Council President, council members. I'm here on 10.1515, which is resolution to accept a $7,500 grant. This is a beautiful grant because it pays us to do something we want to do already and have begun to do. It will train our health department staff to deliver infection control trainings, especially in our long-term care facilities, but anywhere else where infection is a possible concern. We've been meeting with our long-term care facilities, went through with the state one of them last week and are scheduling another one this week. The training will make sure that we can do this consistently over time and help take better care of our residents in long-term care, as well as other similar areas once the grant is complete. It builds capacity for us. Thank you.
Owen?
Good afternoon, Council President, members of City Council. I have one item tonight, Resolution 23727, Agenda number 10.16, a resolution authorizing an agreement with Community Food Bank of New Jersey for SNAP Ed nutrition and fitness education programming. This is an agreement we've previously had with the Community Food Bank. This year, we're adding 5 senior sites, so approximately 135 additional seniors will have access to nutrition education. And some of the topics covered will be healthier food choices, food shopping choices, cooking demonstrations, and how to live a healthier, active lifestyle.
Questions? Thank you. Drew?
Good afternoon, Council President, council members. The Department of Infrastructure has a few resolutions to present tonight. First, I'll ask Michael Manzella to come up.
Afternoon, Council. Transportation Planning Division has one resolution, agenda item number 10.18. It's resolution 23-729. It's a resolution for the city to enter into an agreement with the NJTPA. This is for our annual transportation planning efforts. This is an annual funding amount that comes to the city with a 15% local match for fiscal year 2024.
Thanks, Mike. I'll call up Brian Weller too for the architecture items.
Good afternoon, Council President and council members.
Afternoon.
I have two items on the agenda tonight. Agenda item number 10.19, Resolution 23-730. This is a resolution awarding a contract to Hannon Flooring Corporation for the purchase and delivery of floor covering materials to be installed at Johnson Avenue Library in the amount of $36,384 under the Hunterdon County Educational Services Co-op. And the funding is from Capital General Buildings account. Similarly, agenda item 10.20, resolution 23-731. It's a resolution awarding contract to Hannon Flooring for the purchase of flooring materials to be installed in the senior center at 394 Central Avenue in the amount of $38,142 under the Hunterdon County Educational Services Commission Co-op. And again, the funding is from Capital General Buildings account.
Brian, have you, are you finished, Brian, with your resolutions?
Absolutely.
Yeah, have you spoken to the people from the Persian Field about the bridge and everything? They're sitting in the back there, and I think you should talk to them.
I will talk to them.
Okay, Drew.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our new business. If there are no other questions, done.
Thanks, Drew. McNair.
Council.
Evening.
Item 10.12, Resolution 23-723. This is a resolution authorizing the use of competitive contracting to procure a vendor to provide on-site wellness consulting services to the city employees for the Department of Administration, Division of Human Resources, Office of Employee Benefits. The services include, but not limited to, like health screening, mental health, as well as medical services and nutrition services. And an RFP will follow.
And this,
Go ahead.
this is for employees, correct?
That is correct. Active employees, yes.
Yes, John, I know, there was a RFP for the other mental health thing, but, John, have we, entertained that, the Arrive Together program? That I guess the Attorney General was.
The RFP for the services was out. I'm not sure what the due date is. I can get you the due date, but that RFP that we previously discussed did go back out once we passed the budget, and I'll confirm the timeline.
No, I'm
Just here. Director Flanagan says she knows more about that.
No, I was speaking, because I mean, I don't know how much or we've engaged and talked about the Arrive Together. I mean, the second part, I guess Stacy can speak to as it relates to the RFP that the two entities, bidded on, but I was just specifically saying, because I didn't see, and I don't know if it comes to the council, anything as it relates to us adopting our Arrive Together program. Just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything, right?
No, it didn't come here.
We can get more clarity from public safety, but I
Okay.
wasn't prepared for that tonight.
Okay.
Safety.
Yes. I guess if Stacy can speak to the other one, I know we had two bids come in.
But she's not up yet. She's.
No, that's what I'm saying when she come, yes.
Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
No more questions for the employees.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, another.
Good afternoon, Council President and council members. I'm representing DCD today. Please refer to agenda item 10.13 and resolution 23-724. DCD is requesting that the municipal council accept a grant of $603,339.92 from the Department of Treasury with the U.S. government for ERA2 rental assistance. Pursuant to the American Recovery Plan, this money will go to residents, low-income residents who are experiencing financial hardship indirectly or directly to the COVID-19 pandemic and are experiencing a risk of homelessness. Once this money's been accepted and we're authorized to open up a grant account, we can begin to award this money to assist the residents.
Any questions?
Do you know when the timeline would be for that? The what's it called? When it would be, people would be able to apply for this rental assistance, the soonest and also the most reasonable?
So during the last phase, the Housing Authority had much more requests for assistance than the money that we had present. So they're going to first go through the wait list in the event that the tenants who requested assistance no longer need the money, they moved on, they found rental assistance elsewhere. They're going to reopen the wait list. We have to go through some procedural hurdles. I believe we have to submit a resolution to amend the budget to accept the money. And then also we have to do a resolution to authorize a contract to the Housing Authority. So it might require a few sessions, but we're moving as expeditiously as possible to provide our residents with the assistance they need.
Do you have any idea how big the wait list is currently? Or if you,
I do not know, but the Housing Authority told us last week there were requests up to $10 million that are currently in the waiting list. And right now we've only received 600,000. So based upon just general understanding of how this works, it should be pretty quick if those tenants still need the assistance.
Thank you.
Sure. The sort of mechanism for distribution, but also will you also be working with the county as well, or is this all being run through the Housing Authority?
So the county received their own individual allotment from the Treasury. The city received its own specific allotment. Currently, we have about $1.2 million left that we've been awarded. Once we obligate 70% of this $600,000, we can request the Treasury another 600 grand. So more could be coming. But it's just showing the federal government that we've obligated this, which means we've actually spent the money and or entered into contracts with the recipients to accept the money.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a mechanism to track if, let's say they got money from the county or they got money from us before?
Yeah, so when the Housing Authority receives an applicant, they're under a statutory obligation to screen to see if they've received other assistance, whether it's from the DCA, the county, other nonprofits, to ensure there's no duplication of benefits.
Okay.
This is basically Housing Authority.
So last time when we first administered the ERA2 funds, we entered into a contract with the Housing Authority because they had the social workers and the infrastructure to administer it as quickly as possible. As of right now, we intend to engage in a contract with them again. You know, the line has not been signed, but
Right.
I think we will be entering into a contract with them.
All right. Thank you. Any more questions? Thank you. Vivian?
Thank you so much, Council.
Good afternoon, Council President and Council. I have agenda item 10.1, resolution 23-712. And this is a resolution authorizing the insertion of a special item and revenue or appropriations for the current budget. And this is just the routine resolution that we have to do to add the grants after the budget has been adopted. And we are adding 3 grants on this resolution. Safe and secure for the police department for both 2022 and 2023, and the lead grant assistance program for HEDC for landlord tenant. Any questions?
So Council, just so we're familiar with this, once the budget's adopted, we have to insert these items as special items, and it's always grant funding that we do that for.
Thank you.
Sonia?
Evening, Council President and council members. I'm here for Resolution 10.17, resolution amending the amount of a grant fund for Keep America Beautiful. And Resolution 1029, resolution authorizing the awardment of janitorial services to Tux Cleaning.
10.17, do that one first.
It's a grant from Keep America Beautiful. This grant is dedicated to the Martin Luther King corridor.
Questions?
What is the money going to be used for?
It's going to be used for cleaning, in recycling and trash receptacles, as well as building a relationship with our business corridors on keeping their location free of litter.
So you're going to be installing new garbage cans, correct?
Yes, we'll be installing additional garbage cans and working alongside with Michelle Massey to create the cleanup.
Okay, is there any way we can get the, the ones you put in and you close versus the round open ones?
The ones that you touch are not really favorable because especially after COVID, a lot of people, those are the big solar bellies. We had a lot of complaints because you literally have to touch it. What I'm looking towards is possibly getting the ones that you can put your foot on it and it opens.
Okay, same type,
Yep.
okay.
Those are awesome. If we could transition all of our city's trash cans to the foot pedal, trash can, that would be amazing with like the small
As long
compartment.
as I can get more grants to put them throughout the city, I'll be more than happy to do so.
Rooting for you, Director. Thank you.
Sonia, so this is, this will be the city staff
Right.
administering these services, or is it going?
It'll be a combination of both. It'll be the city staff installing the garbage receptacles, but it's going to be volunteer driven. We have a list of volunteers that are ready, willing, and able to hit the streets. A lot of companies need it for cities of service.
So with the SID with Michelle, because I know Michelle have a private cleaning company that comes.
Well, it's an addition to it because it's going to be like a cities of service. This grant was awarded solely for the Martin Luther King corridor. So we're going to do a complete cleaning, installation of litter receptacles, and working with our commercial corridors to see what we can do to help us keep our streets clean.
And who, who empty or, I guess who empty them and how frequently?
So they're empty about twice a day, sometimes even more. Our private vendor does it, and our city packer does it as well when needed.
Okay.
Next one, Sonia.
Okay. Would be Resolution 1029, resolution awarding the janitorial contract to Tux. We did meet with 32 BJ. We're continuing to work with them, and we're both looking forward to awarding this contract to Tux Company so we can continue our services.
Okay.
Director, as I understand it from a little bit more conversation back and forth is, the prior bidded contract had 27 employees and this has 21. And what can we do to ensure that those 6 employees are continuing to?
We're working with that with 32 BJ, but they understand that our city buildings have consolidated and that the need is not necessarily there like it was before.
Understood. Can we get sort of detail prior to Wednesday's vote on what's happening with those 6 employees? And so forth.
Yeah, Council. So just to clarify too, there's actually 2 contracts there. So the original contract was in 2015 that had 19 employees. Then when COVID happened, the city, it would increase the volume of services. So they did outside services for 10 additional employees, which brought it to 29. And then because of, different buildings going online, offline, et cetera, they kept some around. That's where you get the 27 number. Now that we've kind of consolidated to the point where we don't need as many anymore, we're down to 21 permanent employees. Now, depending on, services that happen, if there's a water break, there's additional cleaning, that kind of stuff, we do bring on, employees occasionally to help with those things. But as far as the basic staff, we really need about 19 with building in 2 extra, which gets you to 21.
Right. Right. I understand there's different, I appreciate the understanding and going back and forth. And I thank you to the director for meeting with the union and working this out. My hope is that we, prior to Wednesday's vote, have some sort of firm commitment on what's happening. And I understand that, maybe the people shift, there's different other types of positions. We just want to make sure that, if you have a good union job in the city, it doesn't just disappear one day.
Of course. So what we talked, and there's two things that 33DA is asking from us. We have to kind of vet the process because we don't want to just agree to it and make sure there's actually a need there, responsibility to the taxpayers. However, what we want to do is at least pass Tux potentially now, because there is some controversy with the old company is basically doesn't want to provide this service anymore. So we don't want to leave the city without any janitorial services.
Sure.
Plus the employees aren't, they still have to show off. So we have to make sure some companies there are responsible for them.
Right.
So we did speak to the law department too, where if the case may arise, we want to add additional employees or rework things, we're able to do that to the contract without necessarily bringing it back to the council and starting all over.
Mm-hmm.
So we could at least pass this for the 21 we have now, and then potentially if they add more in or figure out something else, bring them on to the city, we can do that separately.
Understood. That's good. Can we just keep talking between now and Wednesday?
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you.
Versa.
Good afternoon, Council. I'm here for items 10.5 and 10.6. 10.5, Resolution 23-716 is renewal of an agreement with Value Payment Systems for credit card and e-payment services. This is our final one-year renewal of this contract. We'll be issuing an RFP early next year for another provider. And this contract, it's a concession, so it's at no cost to the city.
Questions?
John, can you remind me, in this contract, this covers the payment of property taxes online, correct?
Yes.
What's the fee people are paying by credit card?
It's a convenience fee. I believe it's 2.25%.
I think, if my memory is correct, I said that Councilman Yoon had brought up a few times with this contract where I think the bank fee is just a little extra charge, but the credit card fee is a percentage. And we were wondering if in the future contract, when this gets rebid, if we can cap that. So it's the same thing as it is for the bank charge. It's up to.
I'll check the law. I don't see why we couldn't. I mean, it might reduce the number of bidders. E-check fees, I think, are 95 cents.
That's not right.
But, we'll look at what the mix of payments are.
The last renewal will go out the next time, just to put that on the radar.
Yep.
Next one.
10.6, Resolution 23-717 is a resolution providing for the combination of certain bond ordinances. And basically, last year, the council authorized 175 million in bond anticipation notes and 19.2 million in special emergency notes for severance obligations the city has. What this resolution does is issues bonds for 51,259,000 of those bond anticipation notes and issue them as bonds. It refunds the remaining 124 million in bond anticipation notes because they're expiring October 26th of this year, as are the special emergency notes, the 19.2. So it's basically a simple refunding of the bands and the sends and issuing permanent financing for the bonds.
Question, guys.
Sorry, John, what does this mean in terms of the interest rates we're paying on these bonds?
Well, we won't know the interest rates. I mean, we have a rating call and interest rate calls coming up beginning of October. I can check and see what the interest rates on these bonds are. I don't know them offhand.
Sure. I guess my so if I understand, I just want to repeat to make sure I understand what's happening is what you're saying is these bonds have, in essence, the bond notes have expired or will be expiring, so the city has to reconsolidate and issue again.
Correct.
I guess maybe this is a broader policy question, but I noticed in the city's budget this year, the amount we paid on interest on bonds jumped substantially. I think by 10 million. So we, obviously that's money that benefits nobody in essence, right? And I'm wondering if, these bonds as we're issuing them, are these going to be variable interest rate bonds? I mean, how can we sort of limit the amount the city is paying in bond cost and interest rate costs on these bonds?
I can look into that for you and consult with bond counsel and then find out what the ramifications are.
Mhm.
That'd be great before Wednesday. Thanks.
Questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Council President and council members. I have item number 4.1. It's the second reading of ordinance 23-077. It's an ordinance amending chapter 84, alcoholic beverages and cannabis, to amend regulations of cannabis establishments and cannabis distributors.
Once this passes, I think this has to do more with 4.2 actually, so I'll just save it. Well, if no one has questions, I'll just jump in then to 4.2. So will people that are currently in the pipeline, now that the planning board is basically, not going to have like the full hearing unless it's necessitated because they're asking for, something that's not part of the zone, will people have to go through the old way? They'll still have to go through the planning board, the people in the pipeline, or will the new rules take effect and people in the pipeline can, take advantage of not having to go to the planning board because they're within the zone of selling?
It's my understanding, and I'll have to get Matt Ward to confirm, that anyone in the pipeline now will be allowed to skip that planning process.
Is that
There's a change in the law while it's in process.
I just want to make sure with Matt.
Yeah, so applicants that have already submitted to planning board under time of application can choose to continue with their application under the old ordinance. If in effect, though, the ordinance before you, 4.2, is removing the conditional use provision. So it does not require a hearing by state statute.
Okay.
So, wait, man, I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So the process is essentially the same, with the exception you don't have to actually go in front of the planning board.
That's right. There's been a lot of confusion caused by the fact that there's been two bodies that have been receiving applications on these applicants or for these applicants. These series of ordinances, my understanding, that will put much more responsibility in the hands of the Cannabis Control Board, which is a good thing.
Now, with respect
rather than
to,
dividing it. I'm sorry to interrupt.
with respect to the actual process, I was under the impression that the only way you will be eligible or subject to the new rules is if you filed by a certain date. Now, your assessment is if the applicants decide. So which one is it? I'm a little confused.
If they've already applied to the city planning, the applicant can choose to remain with the existing ordinance right now that's on the books, or they can choose to file under the ordinance should it change. This is for any sort of zoning application, cannabis or otherwise.
What would be their incentive to go through planning?
Like to have the full blown.
Why would I take that step if I don't have to?
I do not know. I don't know the answer to that question.
And then I guess the other question is, planning was verifying the locations, right? So now that'll be up to the CCB.
Verifying locations. There are sections in that ordinance, but if you'd like me to bring up Director Woodson to answer the questions on that ordinance, there are some sections in my read of it that do speak to locations. But I can.
You know what's confusing, because in the beginning it was based on planning. Once planning put the dot in the map, that's all I kept hearing, the dot in the map, that signifies that this is a site. Without the dot, it was not considered a site. So now we're removing that. So planning don't have to put a dot in the map, so to say, because that's what was said to us. So now they don't have to do it. I'm just, because you know what, because I know we're going to get people who already been approved. They're going to come back and say, okay, you guys told us first that it had to be a dot in the map to consider 600 feet away. Now you're saying that they have the option, or they can go, they don't have to go. So you can see how it gets confusing for us. It may clear up your end, but it gets confusing for us.
Yeah, who's the deciding authority?
Actually, our understanding
Not
that
to cap.
the pin goes in the map at the time that the council signs off for the support resolution. That's what is really official.
Oh, it's our responsibility to.
Now it is.
Well, people did argue in the past, at what point did the dot in the map begin? Because if you remember, we didn't exactly, the process changed multiple times. Like they would go to zoning, get a zoning letter of determination, then planning, then CCB, then I'm not sure, it flipped to planning, then CCB. And essentially people were like, well, I was ahead of you. And then like, well, it switched. So then by the time it got to us, people were alleging that the pin in the map happened at different stages. I applied first, but then the person that applied second ends up in front of the council before, for a myriad of reasons, such as, maybe the community needed a meeting, or they didn't have a meeting with the council person to discuss their impact plan. I don't know. There's different things that happen along the way, but ultimately a cap with, the council being the pin in the map is it is, but we have to be the buck stops with us.
I believe that there is a pending lawsuit in which the planning board is named, so I cannot answer questions on that.
Okay, no problem.
So the council was clear when we decided that we were going to do the 600 feet, right?
Correct.
So if it's our decision,
Yes.
in my opinion, and I'm not going to speak for the rest of the council, then that part of the ordinance doesn't need to change for me.
You could use whatever criteria, from what I understand. You could yes or no it based on anything in your head. Like doesn't have to be on, it could be 800 feet or 1,000 feet. Maybe you have too many in your ward. You could have
It can be whatever we want, but I think we said it was going to be 600. And then that's
Yes.
trying to change it. Well, we weren't changing it.
I didn't change it. Yeah.
They're changing, yeah.
They're changing it. I don't need that change then if I'd have to make the final decision.
Yes.
And I've tried to explain this to a few people, like we put the 600-foot rule in place, but in practice, it didn't happen that way. Unfortunately, it is a new process, and different people are alleging the pin and map at different times. So I think this is probably, personally, your proposal is probably the simplest way for us to fix this, but the buck will stop with us.
And also from a financial standpoint, because they had to pay to go before zoning, right? Wasn't a monetary fee associated with that step, or no?
Zoning approval is only a $100 fee. You're talking about the planning process, it is.
How much was the planning process? Because people paid in the beginning to go through planning, which was much more.
I thought it was 2,500.
Yes, the application for conditional use application was $2,500.
So now what happens with those people who paid that? Because this is going to be a conversation.
The ordinance reads that all fees that are paid are non-refundable. That is on the books right now.
So now we allowing applicants to
Someone-
come to just pay $100.
Yeah, if someone paid a fee that, under the old ordinance and they still haven't been deemed complete or scheduled for a hearing, or they're waiting for a hearing, and they've paid that fee, and they choose to proceed under an ordinance that might be adopted before this council, where they no longer are, determined to be a conditional use, they could choose to move forward with that hearing, or they could choose to forego that hearing if they are in an area where they are a permitted principal use.
Oh, no.
I mean, people paid it because they wanted first mover advantage though, too. They, you know, they wanted to bite, first bite at the apple. They wanted to be the first ones in the area. I don't know. Do you have instances where people paid the fee and now they're still stuck in
Yeah. no,
cannabis
no,
purgatory?
Said that they can make the decision if they want to go through the new way or the old way.
right,
So that's
you have-
like, so if they decide to go to the new way and they're in the pipeline, do they get refunded?
Correct.
No, is the answer according to, because it's non-refundable.
So a local support resolution
Mhm.
and the other approvals that many of these applicants have sought doesn't end with the city. They also need to be approved by the Cannabis Regulatory Commission. So
We paid, they paid us.
there is a body which has veto power beyond the city council. To determine. Actually, I've already stated the reasons as to why I'm not going to.
Okay.
So now the final decision really rests with the council. Correct. Even with the 600 distance,
If
it's up to the council.
if there's an applicant that the Cannabis Regulatory Commission doesn't find suitable, they will not be approved, right?
I don't know, we asking, because now we find out that
It's my
we have the
understanding
final
too that there's
say.
also a major backlog of those applications, and for reasons that I do not know. And I don't know if they've been communicated to me or not either.
What's the backlog?
With the state.
Oh, with the state you talk about.
I mean, I commend you guys for trying to do something, but, is, I don't know.
The reason why we're here is there was a moratorium passed, right? So the council has taken action and has put it upon city staff to come up with a solution. We have had meetings with city council members. And these are this is what's been recommended by the planning board, and this is what's been drafted in response to the cannabis control.
But the bottom line is, right, there are already applications in a pipeline that exceed what we're trying to cap, right? So in essence, in my assessment, this is really just window dressing at this point, right? We didn't rectify the real problem. And now you're saying, hey, it's on the council to change it from 600 and then decide to change the process and everything. But the reality is there are already applications that were submitted that exceed the permitted cap.
What is the real problem in your position, Councilman?
Say it again, Matt.
What is the problem in your position?
My position is that we already have the applicants that we're going to cap it at. Now we're changing rules. We're changing rules in the middle of the game. People are going to be complaining. I went through this process. I had to pay this. This person didn't have to pay that. Those are the calls that we're going to get, that people are complaining. Like I said, I understand your effort. I understand what you're trying to do, but in essence, it almost really means nothing because the application that's coming in after the moratorium, it's filled already. In fact, you said, Maynard, it was only 2 after the moratorium.
So is your point that there should be, the cap should be higher?
No, the cap shouldn't be, the cap should be way lower. My whole position is that as a whole, this whole thing was botched. Right? And as a council person, I'm not taking a rap for all of this, whatever this, because that's my position. That's what my position is. So that's what I'm,
I understand the need for the cap, because if we didn't put the cap, the door was gonna stay open. You know, the moratorium gave us time to figure out a way to, you know, slow and stop the proliferation. We don't want too many, because then you jeopardize the success of the people that have established and have put in skin in the game in Jersey City. And yes, there's a lot of cannabis establishments even with the cap, and it's gonna be them ultimately. And maybe we should have limited it a long time ago. And I remember there was a proposal here, but there was concerns that there weren't enough in Ward F and Ward A and the South Side, and that all of them had coalesced in the Heights, and that's why we left it open. And now everyone's here, so we have to. The cap needs to be instituted, and you know we can amend it later on as well to lower it as people start to leave. Okay.
Yes, challenging. This is very challenging because I'm concerned about the 600 feet because I know a lot of the businesses, that was their concern. It seemed like now we just ignoring the 600 feet. That's the concern, really. I get the cap, we understand the cap, but it's the 600 feet because at first we was very strong on the 600 feet. We said that's what it was, and even when the council probably had met with different vendors concerning that, that's what they was ensuring them was. It was 600 feet, 600 distance. But now it's like, okay, we just ignoring that. Now you putting it on the council to make a decision and say, okay, you're the ones that will determine if it's 600 feet or not. I know there's stipulations in there. If they have certain criteria, the CCB board can overlook it and allow them to come, you know, if they're not 600 feet. But you have to see our concern too. Because at first it wasn't. If you would have gave that authority, or it was written up in such a way that the council had the right from the beginning with this 600 feet, a lot of this wouldn't have even got passed. Because we was relying on the CCB board or the planning board to determine that. But now it's coming back to us. That is our concern. Okay.
There's a pending lawsuit where the planning board is named. I can't speak to them.
Right. I know you can't speak to it. Yeah, can though. Because then we got legal counsel too. That's what I'm saying. That's when it gets a little murky to me.
Yeah, the planning board does have separate counsel. I know there is litigation on this matter. I am not up to speed on exactly where that is. I can figure out where that is and I can advise the council on
Yeah.
the status of that. You know, that said, obviously, whatever is adopted by the council has to be comfortable with whatever we put together. I think, you know, we want to work with the council to get something that is going to be not 100% perfect. That's
Right.
not possible, but we want something that's going to be throughout the process, be fair, incorporate a lot of the social equity elements that we've put into the new draft, and simplify the process for everybody going forward.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Wilder, he left. Carmen?
Good afternoon, council members. I'm here for two items. First item is item 3.3, ordinance. We are revising our franchise agreement. Do you have any questions on or BA?
Yep. Go ahead, read it into the,
Sure.
3.3.
Right, you can read it in a minute, you know, this way the public can hear it.
Sure. 3.3 is an ordinance of the city of Jersey City and the county of Hudson, New Jersey, approving the extension and amending and restorative water service franchise and service agreement between the city of Jersey City Municipal Utilities and the city of Jersey City Municipal Utilities Authority to increase payments to the city. So as the council's aware, I felt like Sean answering some of those names that right there, but So as the council's aware, we are in a long-term franchise agreement with the MUA to run our water system, and then in return, also a third party to conduct the business of that. We still do own the infrastructure of the city. We're operating off of a 1998 agreement that's coming to expire soon. And we had renegotiated with the vendor to supply the service for an additional 30 years. And part of that would be the continuation of the franchise agreement that we receive and some additional funds along the way that we would allocate in future budgets.
So, John, this doesn't affect the rate, consumer, correct?
It would have minimal impact on the rates. This is basically a bid from the third party to continue the services for the city.
They're paying us 23 million? Is that?
They have been paying us 23. They're promising to continue 33, and then 50 million as far as the new allotment of the years are concerned, or like a signing bonus, if you will.
If I can just add a few questions. So I just want to make sure I understand. So the current agreement expires in 27, is that right?
Yeah, they usually with something that's so long term, they try to build it out a few years ahead. Because if there is not an agreement in place, a succession plan of a new vendor would have to take place.
And this extends, it was a little bit unclear. Is it 40 or 50 years? Is this to 2063 or 2073? I think there were different, sometimes it said 40 and then sometimes it said 2073 in the agreement.
73, Councilman.
73, so it'd be 50 years as opposed to 40.
Yeah.
And it locks in the $23-ish million payment through the course of that agreement, is that right?
Correct. And then the 50 million can be allocated throughout those concession payments.
Is there any ability in the future to, I guess, amend that number?
Yeah, we with the existing one, we have done that 3 times already. And basically what it is the ratables grow in the city. We go back and negotiate continuation of services.
Okay, but obviously the MUA would have to be party to that. So theoretically, they could not negotiate with us, but they'd have to.
Yeah, I mean, the city basically has the override because we still own the infrastructure of it. So
sure,
check and balance there a little bit.
Sure, but and then why, from their perspective, why are they paying this $50 million up front?
So just to give clarity, the water usage went up, right? And to answer your question for us to amending it, we would have done this in 2020, but COVID, right? Out of the census, our numbers, trying to get the financing in place and getting our numbers now. If you can recall, we couldn't collect, right? We had moratoriums. We had a real issue of collecting during COVID. So earlier this year, my team went back and went to the law department and with MUA and said, hey, we can't go through this again, and said, let's look at this and look at this financing too. Add to what the BA said, yes, we can amend these agreements over time. And typically you're going to do it at whether how you're measuring water usage, but a good benchmark is like, 10 years with the census and those results, or having those conversations. So this is kind of sort of negotiated through the law department, business administrator's office, and my office in regards to renegotiating these monies, and that put us in a better planning position. And then I also clarified that the state did not allow us to use this in part of this year's budget so that we can start future planning and building back some of our surplus and reserves at a future state.
How is the MUA going to pay the $50 million kind of upfront cost? I think it's over a couple of years, but.
So the who?
Sorry?
The employee? Who?
It's 30 million in year 1 and then 10 million in year 2 and 10 million in year 3. And I was wondering how they're going to pay it.
I'll follow up with you, Councilman, but I think they may have an agreement with Veolia.
Yep.
But I'll confirm.
Okay, and then obviously we'd love to hear from them before we vote on the impacts on both sewer rates and water rates, and because that Council President's point.
Or and to your point, Councilman,
Right.
The administration's decision was that those dollars would go towards existing bond debt that we have to draw down, not necessarily expand a budget or anything like that. Yeah.
Okay, that these $50 million there. Okay, that's helpful to know. I think I appreciate that, and I agree from the director's perspective. The planning, as I'm analyzing, obviously this is caucus. The one concern I have is just to make sure that this doesn't hurt us in the long run, right? Obviously, short term, obviously, it's got a lot of things. I just want to make sure, 15, we're doing right by a future council and city 15, 25, 35 years down.
Yeah, and so two things, Councilman. I did notice the disparity in the numbers, so we'll clean that up.
Right.
The second thing is maybe we'll work with the financial advisors that we could the council could consider extension or
Sure.
a change every 10 years, or we could build.
Yeah, something like that makes sure.
And the MUA will be present at the next caucus meeting to talk about rates.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Bye.
And then the other item that I have is 10.2 is a resolution for a professional service contract with Wilcox and Company for next.
And point two.
Point two. Any questions on?
No, that's it. Thanks, Carmen.
All right, thank you, guys.
Stacy?
My first resolution is 10.9, a resolution authorizing the city of Jersey City to accept a donation of socks from Bomba. I think you may know throughout COVID, Bomba donated socks throughout the city of Jersey City to support our people in need, homeless populations, et cetera. They came back to us with another donation. So we're just lumping it all in together because we noticed that we did not properly accept that donation in the middle of COVID. So accepting a donation from 2021 and a new donation coming next week for a total of $14,000 worth of socks. This will be used throughout the city in the programming that we do on the hygiene and health bus and other, we typically get them out to local nonprofits looking for support. And then the next.
I'm gonna say that's a great company and great socks and really
Great
appreciate
socks.
that effort.
If you have not purchased Bombas, if you buy a pair, they donate a pair, and that's where all of these come from. And they're just great. And then the second one is 10, where did I put that? 14. And that is a resolution authorizing the execution of a memorandum of understanding with Grandview, permitting the city of Jersey City to use the facility at 222 St. Paul's Avenue to host the movement and meditation program. We have been trying to get more programming into Ward C, and Grandview has been requesting that. And so we're ready to roll out additional senior programming, fully funded by the county.
No, I mean, yes, with regards to the RFP,
So the RFP for 911 support services, obviously, like I mentioned to several council people that called me, once the council approved the budget, we were able to get the RFP out. So with the delays in the approval, delayed the RFP from going back out to the public because we were not clear how much money we were really going to get. And so as soon as an opening in the timeline came, that was September 5th, the RFP went out to the public on September 5th. It closes on September 26th, and the committee will review those applications. We expect at the October 12th meeting, the committee chair to present that to the council. Okay.
Great. John Kenny?
Good afternoon, Council.
Afternoon.
So the first one I have is ordinance Item number 3.4, ordinance 23-098. This is approving a tax exemption and financial agreement with Lafayette Village pursuant to the long-term tax exemption law. Lafayette Village is it's a fairly old development, had, I think, 5 or 6 phases. It's surrounded by Grand and Pacific and Johnston. The first phase is now about 30 years old and needs substantial rehabilitation work to be done. They're going to be applying for, I believe, HMFA financing and low-income housing tax credits. And one of the requirements for them to be able to get that funding or credits is to have a pilot agreement in place with the city.
John, what regards to, they're saying that it's 90K per unit in rehab courses.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out, because it's mixed use. You have 1, 2, 3s, and 4 bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
So is that an average of 90K? Because I can't imagine it being the same amount to rehab a 1 bedroom as a 4 bedroom. So is that just like an average?
It might be. What they're largely doing is oven replacements, AC replacements, refrigerator, stuff like that. So it's appliances and other things. It's not necessarily, they're not doing a knockdown of the building. They're just replacing a lot of the infrastructure within it, is my understanding. So in that regard, it might balance out to be about the same for every single unit, unless they have, multiple refrigerators or something. But yes, I would assume that's their estimate.
Yeah, Councilman, I think there's some common areas included in there as well, so maybe that's the average.
Yeah.
John,
Yeah, it's an average cost.
John, who owns Lafayette Village?
It's an LLC. I don't recall who the actual developer is. It might be Penrose, but
It says on the thing, McCormick, Barron, Salazar,
okay.
affordable housing developers based out of St. Louis.
So they haven't kept up with the improvements over the years, and we're going to give them another tax abatement.
No, they have.
No,
You just said they're going to replace stoves, they're going to replace this, they're going to replace that. I mean,
Yeah, there's items that have released end of use or they've hit their end of life, but they haven't been hit up with any violations to my knowledge in relation to the amenities that have been afforded and the appliances. They've gotten old.
Yeah, so what happened, Rich, is they want to do like this complete renovation. Now they haven't been negligent in a sense in the sense of maintaining it, although some residents feel that things haven't been done quicker than they would like to be, but they haven't been negligent. They have been doing these upkeepings periodically. Now they're just doing a big one with all of them together.
and this has been a profitable business for them over the years, right?
Yeah, I mean, you'll drive right by it on Grand Street. It looks pretty
Where it
nice.
is. I know where it is. If it's profitable and they've been making money, why haven't they kept up with all the modern equipment?
Oh, I don't know how much they necessarily make as a profit on it. It's a substantial, there's affordable housing element to it. There's a senior housing element to it. It's, yeah, I couldn't answer that question, Rich. To how profitable the development is. I mean, I can try and get that. I can't promise that I can get that information from you. They'll need the pilot agreement to get the financing regardless.
Did they have to submit a pro forma as part of this pilot application?
Generally, yes.
If they did,
if I recall correctly, yeah.
I mean, theoretically, the pro forma should be able to answer the councilman's question.
Maybe, yeah. If not with the pilot application, it'll certainly go with their HMFA application.
And I just wanted to confirm it says the ordinance sunsets in 2 years. So if they fail to get the HMFA grant, then they're not going to get the abatement.
Correct. Or if they don't
engage, correct, find other funding. And I just wanted to confirm too that there's no change in the affordability here.
No.
Everything is exactly the same. It's just extended for another 30 years.
Correct. To my knowledge, yes.
But no, wait, hold on. So it's what happens, there's a bunch of affordable units in the establishment. And in many cases, people who was living there were under one threshold, but now those individuals are making more money. So in essence, their assessment and their contribution to rent will change.
Sure.
Right.
But that's because they're making more money.
Because they're making money, yeah. But the actual affordability of the project,
Still there.
also remains.
Possibility. Yep.
Okay. Next one, John.
Next one is item number 4.9. This is an ordinance amending chapter 304, taxation, section 32, guidelines for the expenditure of funds. This is the one that deals with the changing of the code so we can spend money in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund on a rental assistance program. Item 4.10, ordinance 23-093. This is the 30-year tax exemption for a mixed-use residential project with Bayfront Partners, 32 Urban Renewal LP, pursuant to the long-term tax exemption law. This is also something they need to, for the same reason as Lafayette Village. They needed to apply for their financing and tax credits. Sorry, Rich, I can't hear you.
I think,
Come on, John.
I thought, my understanding of, we were gonna have the resolution on the public school funding. I know there were other resolutions that were gonna come later, but the resolution was gonna come for this meeting.
Yeah.
Is that resolution on this agenda? I believe it is.
Yeah, so council, I was gonna discuss it when we got here. The item was added, but it has a future date on it, so if the council will accept, we'll re-up the agenda with it. Yes.
Yeah, we need to.
Can we just email it to everyone so we can?
I can email it to you right now and then we'll just circulate it. It just wasn't physically on the agenda, so, okay.
The next one is item 10.21. This is resolution 23-732. This is authorizing a resolution of need from the city regarding a development entitled Montgomery Gateway Apartments. This is another deal where they're going to be doing substantial rehab work to an affordable housing development. They're going to be applying for HMFA funding. And one of the requirements is to get a resolution of need from the city, which essentially just says that the city recognizes the need for affordable housing in this location and supports it.
Sorry, this is tangential to this thing, but so I know there's a couple different kind of owners and for Montgomery Gateway. One of the Montgomery Gateway owners has had a parking lot that's just been under renovation and has not been used now for 2 years. And, it's obviously, you've got 30, 50 more cars parking. I don't know who the contact point is for them, but can we kind of work to try to get an update and try to make sure that they get that parking lot back open and accessible to the residents?
Sure.
Right, and whoever your contact is here, we just connect and discuss this, so.
Okay.
For Wednesday.
For Wednesday?
Well, I at least want to at least
Yeah,
have
no
the
promises,
conversation,
we'll do what I can.
or at least have the conversation with the, the right party, and that makes sense.
Okay. The final one I have is resolution 10.22. It's a resolution authorizing the first year's payment of a lease for the property located at 514 Newark Avenue. This is in relation to an ordinance that y'all passed a while ago. It just didn't have the count number attached to it and a budget, which is required by law. So it's authorizing the funding and the spending. Thank you very much.
No, I said just before Wednesday. That's it.
Hey.
Just here for second reading item 4.11. Should you have any additional questions from the introduction in the last caucus meeting? This is an ordinance adopting amendments to the Morris Canal redevelopment plan, including the creation of the mixed-use F zone from properties currently zoned I district, which stands for industrial, and mixed-use B district. Thank you and good evening.
John, take it from the top. Wanted to say something for 3.2.
Okay, because that's the one we're going to go right to, because 3.1 was touched on earlier. 3.2, if I could just read it into the record, it's ordinance 23-096. It's an ordinance of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City adopting an amendment to the Journal Square 2060 redevelopment plan to mandate affordable housing.
All right,
Okay,
Journal Square needs affordable housing. The Journal Square redevelopment plan, as well as other redevelopment plans, do not trigger the IZO for affordable housing. The amendment can set precedents for other redevelopment plans in Jersey City. Thanks to the Affordable Housing Task Force with Journal Square Community Association for working with my office on creating this and the other council people. Special thanks to my fellow council members for meeting with us on the amendment. After the amendment is introduced, we will forward it to the planning board for review and approval before it becomes back for a second reading and the legal department. I would like to introduce Michael Ehrman from the committee and who has worked in U.S. housing and urban development in Washington, D.C. and in Hoboken, New Jersey. Affordable housing will give the presentation. Michael.
Thank you, Councilman. Council President, members of the council, thank you for meeting with me today and meeting with us over the last several weeks to discuss this important issue. Thank you, Councilman Bojano and his staff, Pam Andis and Dana Bonham, for working with us these last months on this to bring this resolution to this date. The Journal Square Community Association is very appreciative of the joint venture we've had with the councilman and recently with all of you to try to figure this one out. Obviously, the purpose of this amendment would be to ensure that all new and sub-rehab housing of a certain size would have a share, specifically 10% of affordable units for residents of 80% or below the median. To do that, the Journal Square 2060 redevelopment plan, which literally has 2 or 3 sentences of housing in the whole redevelopment plan, would be amended, and conforming amendments in the IZO Chapter 187 would have to be made. The coverage at this point would be for all new developments of 30 or more residential units. There's been some discussion of a smaller number, but we're going to leave that to you all and the planning board to decide. Our proposal was 30, and substantial rehab would be 50 units or above. 10% of units would be reserved. I point out that in the current IZO, the Journal Square redevelopment area has some, in the map, has some 10% and some 15% requirements. The 15% being the area that is closer to downtown, but we have chosen to do 10%. And these 10% would be a mix of moderate, low, and very low income, determined by the state UX standards through the Jersey City Division of Affordable Housing, that would enforce this through the affordable housing agreements that are now supported in Section 188 of the Municipal Code. That's the vehicle by which this mix would be done. Similar to the IZO, the rent restrictions would be for 30 years, and the rents would be set at a number that meant that no one had to pay more than 30% of their adjusted gross income. That's the standard these days for that. Simple and complicated, but that's what we're looking for. Someone in town has called this approach mandatory affordable housing, as distinct for variance-based affordable housing that's now in the IZO. We like the term. We think it summarizes what we're doing. Why are we doing this? The to date, in the last 3 years, there has been one application, one, under the IZO in the Journal Square redevelopment area. We suggested 2 years ago in the Journal Square Community Association that that would happen. When we first drafted language, which has become part of this, the councilman's proposed ordinance, we said that the current mechanism in the IZO would not work in Journal Square. I've explained it to many of you, but let me say it here, that the IZO uses a variance-based approach. You have to ask for a density variance in order to come under IZO. We have a very generous redevelopment plan, the most generous in town except for downtown. And developers do not have to ask for variances in order to build viable buildings. Therefore, they won't. As a matter of fact, the existence of the IZO, which of course covers Journal Square these days, makes them even less likely to ask for variances because they'll walk right into the requirements of doing, of having to do affordable housing. We say that currently Journal Square is the home of affordable free housing. And what we mean by that is that at the moment, the Journal Square redevelopment only contains 123 units of rent-restricted affordable housing, 93 seniors and 30 available to the general public. That's out of 6,800 units in the Journal Square area. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have a bunch of other low and moderate income residents. As a matter of fact, the neighborhood probably has 40% of its residents or 80% are below median. But what it means is that probably most of the others are now paying rents above the national standard of 30% of rent because there's so little of this public support flowing into the neighborhood. No affordable new affordable housing has been built and made available for occupancy in the Journal Square redevelopment area since 2007. Additionally, the majority of the housing that people are living in that are low and moderate is more than 40 years old. If you take the development process that's going on in Journal Square and you take these facts, what you're having is guaranteed gentrification of this neighborhood. Because if you got a 40% low and moderate income neighborhood, and you've got a neighborhood that's having rapid development now, and none of that development has any affordable housing in it, what do you get? You're guaranteed to change the income mix of the neighborhood over time. And even with the proposal for 10%, of course, it's a lot different for the 40% or so that's now in there. I mean, it's an important drop in the bucket. And that is why it is time to make sure that at least there's a certain amount of public support for rent restricted housing. Just so people understand, we are not.
But you know what, I don't want to cut you off, but we don't have much time. But what I would like to ask, I want to ask the law department here because of our IZO, because you said it didn't trigger nothing. Because I know one thing we do a lot of amendments here when we come to all of these redevelopment plans, and sometimes that offsets triggers too. But my concern is though, based on our IZO, all right, when it comes to the unit count that triggers, I know we have 15 units that trigger when it comes to the IZO, right? That triggers it.
Yes.
They want to introduce 30 units to trigger. Why can't we just keep it at 15? Because that is the IZO. You understand what I'm saying? And my other concern was because we dealing with workforce housing, which really is not talked about a lot. Why can't we add 5% to this for workforce housing? Because when you look at the Journal Square area, that's like a center hub and there's transportation around in that area somewhat. could we add that in this without a problem?
My answer to that is that
I want the law department to answer because they would have to figure this out if it could be done.
I think so. Obviously, you know, affordable housing, inclusionary zoning, that's been one of the most litigated and scrutinized
Correct.
concepts and programs has been put forth in this state over the last 40 or 50 years. I think we all recognize the issues with affordable housing, that, rise to crisis level, particularly I would say in Jersey City. That being said, I think adding that 5%, once you start adding in these mandatory requirements, these automatic triggers, I think it definitely affects the legality of everything. Making these, mandatory, again, the trigger at a certain amount.
But this is mandatory here, he's telling me.
That's what I'm saying. And I think, to me, I think that causes me great concern about constitutionality and legality based on the current case law. I understand and appreciate what counsel is saying about, whether there's been challenge or not yet. They're not aware of any. That doesn't mean, I think this is something that we should be the test case on. I think, we're comfortable working with the councilman and with council to, rework things and make things, address the affordable housing issues in Journal Square. But as this ordinance is currently written, I have grave concerns about the legality.
I'd like, may I comment, if you wouldn't
Wait,
mind?
Wait a minute, let me hear from the BA.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. And as Corporation Council had mentioned, we're willing to work with Councilman Borgiano. We think it's a great effort to increase affordability, but usually this affordable mandates are done on bonuses, not on mandates. And as Corporation Council mentioned, that creates legal issues that essentially sets us up for a lawsuit. So we're going to work with Councilman Borgiano on his efforts to get there. Just the way it's written currently, we're going to have to amend some stuff as we go through the planning board.
As you go to
Our response, thank you for
Uh-huh.
that. Our response is as follows. You can't have a law that you say is coming to Journal Square and the law not working. There have been changes to the IZO already citywide. There needs to be one for Journal Square. As far as the legal question, I'll raise these questions back. One, Bayfront has a 20% mandatory provision. The answer will be back to me that it has a lot of subsidies in there. That may be, but the plan has a 20% mandatory and has not been legally challenged as far as I know. Newark has had a mandatory provision for a number of years, has not been challenged. And the final thing is, most of us in this room believe in a bunch of progressive policies that needed to be were challenged in court before they went forward. And if we're going to use the fear of legal challenges to stop good things, that doesn't seem correct. Yeah. But I want to finish this way. We are not replacing the IZO. We're saying that it needs, at least for this neighborhood, an adjustment. The adjustment is not in the requirements. We're actually going down from 10/15 to 10. The adjustment is in the trigger. The trigger is not working. We want a new trigger, so we'll start working. That's what all this is about.
Any questions from the council before I start? Go ahead, James.
Yeah, two things. One other additional point I think on this legal question is, I think part of the argument too is that the Journal Square 2060 plan is zoned with, a very high amount of density that allows for these developments to occur with affordable housing within them. You're not looking at a context of, say, single family homes where you would know economically, there's no way you could make the numbers work. And so I think I would call it very generous zoning in the Journal Square 2060 plan as a point in the favor of the legality of doing this. The question that I had was, is it written now in this first reading that this is referred to planning board? Because my understanding is that would be the next step for the planning board to review this.
Correct.
And I just want to make sure the language is in there.
I believe that was a proposed amendment.
That's a proposed amendment.
Amendment before Wednesday. Okay.
Any other question?
Yeah, Mike, I think Bayfront is 30%, not 20%. I'm not
For me?
mistaken. What is it?
35%.
Bayfront is 35%, not
Right.
20%.
Bayfront is 20% is my understanding. Yes.
Yeah. But I know in something like this, you have to get workforce in here.
Yeah.
I just think we missing an opportunity if we're going to take a chance.
Yeah, Council President, we're going to work with the council and Rich and Councilman Borgiano to get this over the line. Just from comparing it to Bayfront, I just don't think it's a fair argument.
Right.
The city owns that property, and we made a self-decision that we were going to do that for our residents. This mandate would be on the property owners that exist outside of the city ownership. So I think there's a distinct difference there, and I just don't want to get it convoluted. But again, we're willing to work together. It's not a combative thing. It's just we want to make sure we get it right.
Okay.
Since I don't speak to you that often, I'm going to end with this sentence because I was in HUD for many years. We're all sitting here today because in the 1980s, the federal housing subsidy programs were destroyed. And ever since, everything we do, including IZOs, anything we do, are an effort to uphill to do as well as we can with affordable housing, because what really should be happening, which is a national housing subsidy program, we haven't been able to get back since the Reagan era. And we need to, that is why we can't waste what we have. And we need, if we say we're going to do an IZO, we need to have it work. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Michael, look, I want to see teachers, cops, firemen, and regular citizens stay here in the city. I've watched my neighborhood disappear. And we're going to work on this and we're going to get something done, Mike.
Right. We'll continue to work on this, but one thing I do want to say, because we do believe in affordable housing, that's why the city went out on its own to purchase the Bayfront projects, because we truly believe in that, and that is 35% affordable housing. So that's something we did as a city, because we do believe in affordable housing. I just want that on the record, because we've been fighting for affordable housing, all of us, ever since we took office. So it's a phrase that they say, you put your money where your mouth is. Quite sure you heard that. You know, so we did. We went out to purchase it because we really want affordability, and it is costing us more than people can imagine to get it done. But we're willing to get it done because we believe people should have a right to stay in the city of Jersey City. Thank you. All right, take it from the top.
Okay. Items 3.3 and 3.4 were touched on earlier. That completes our first readings. On to our second readings. Second readings 4.1 and 2 were touched on earlier. 4.3, City Ordinance 23-086 is an ordinance providing for various 2023 capital improvements and in the city of Jersey City and the county of Hudson, state of New Jersey, reappropriating $11,730,000 in excess bond proceeds from various bonds not needed for the original purpose to finance the cost thereof. Item 4.4, City Ordinance 23-087 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 3, Parking, Standing, Stopping, amending Section 332-22, Parking Prohibited at all times, to permit on-street parking on the west side of Baldwin Avenue between Route 139 and Washburn Street. Item 4.5, City Ordinance 23-088 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, amending Section 332-5, One-Way Streets, and Section 332-8, Prohibited Right Turns on Red Signal, and Article 3, Parking, Standing, Stopping, amending Section 332-22, Parking Prohibited at all times, and Section 332-24, Parking Prohibited on certain hours on Academy Street between Tours Avenue and Van Ripen Street as part of the Bergen Square Capital Improvement Project. Item 4.6, City Ordinance 23-089 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, amending Section 332-8, Prohibited Right Turns on Red Signal, and Article 3, Parking, Standing, and Stopping, amending Section 332-22, Parking Prohibited at all times on Duncan Avenue between Route 1 and 9 and West Side Avenue. Item 4.7, City Ordinance 23-090 is an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 9, Parking for the Disabled for the Jersey City Code, designated reserved parking space at various locations throughout the city. Item 4.8, City Ordinance 23-091 is an ordinance rescinding ordinances 17-107 and 20-083 and terminating the tax exemption and financial agreement with CICF 2 Urban Renewal LLC. Items 4.9 through 4.11 were touched on earlier. You'll have a public request for a hearing. Right now, we have 21 speakers. It's still growing. Not that I'm wishing anything on anyone. Trying to make you laugh. Petitions and communications. Any questions or comments on items 6.1 through 6.52? Hearing none, any questions or comments on Officer Communications 7.1 through 7.4? Hearing none, any questions or comments on Reported Directives 8.1? Claims that will be posted when I go back downstairs. I just seen the resolution come in. And on to our resolutions. Items 10.1 through 10.6 were touched on earlier. 10.7, Resolution 23-718 is a resolution in commemoration of the 83rd anniversary of the Katyn Forest Massacre and the 84th anniversary of the German-Soviet invasion of Poland. 10.8, Resolution 23-719 is a resolution commemorating the 75th anniversary of the Loyal Order of Moose number 266. 10.9 was touched on earlier. 10.10 is a resolution 23-721 is a resolution of the City of Jersey City authorizing intergovernmental agreement with the County of Hudson and implementation of the 2022 Edward Byrne Justice Assistance Grant Program. Item 10.11, Resolution 23-722 is a resolution ratifying the award of a contract to Periscope Holdings, Inc. to provide upgrades, hosting, maintenance, and support services for the city's online bidding portal pursuant to NJSA 40:11.5. Sorry. Oof, that was a mouthful. Items 10.12 through 10.22 were touched on earlier. 10.23 is a resolution, Resolution 23-734 is a resolution ratifying the award of professional service agreement with the law firm Murphy Orlando LLC to provide legal advice and counsel in regards to various employment investigations.
Just law, explain what this is.
Sure, Councilman. Obviously, as we receive complaints about issues related to, concerns about the employment, workplace, et cetera, sometimes we feel that it's best to send them to outside counsel to review, just to get a third party's opinion. Or there may be conflicts inherent in having either the law department or human resources investigate. This is why we, and Murphy Orlando is one of the firms that we've contracted with to do some of these investigations.
Are they the only one right now we're working on, or?
No, they are not.
Okay.
I think we prefer to have a couple different entities to avoid different layers of conflict.
Sure. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. 10.24 was touched on earlier. Items 10.25 through 10.28 are the settlement agreements that we will discuss at the closed session. So if there's any questions the council may have, let's hold it until the closed session, which is going to be held on Wednesday at 5 p.m. And then 1029 was touched on earlier. 1030 is a late item. Resolution 23-741 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Absolute Fire Protection, Inc. for the lease purchase of 6 E1 Typhoon apparatus through the Houston Galveston Area Council Cooperative Purchasing System, the Department of Public Safety, Division of Fire. I'm going to turn it over to the BA.
Council President, Council, I'm here to beg for forgiveness for the late item. This is an item that we were in the process of trying to prepare for this meeting. for the lease of 6 fire apparatus. And it's continuing the program that we've been doing for several years. 2 pumpers and a ladder, 2 pumpers and a ladder year over year. So this would be the delivery of 2 pumpers in 2024, a ladder in 2025, 2 pumpers in 2026, and a ladder in 2027. The reason we had requested your consideration for late item is because we have a good lease agreement right now that we believe will expire in 14 days. That's just the way the market works. So we're asking that we could be considered. And the lease agreement, the funds will not be, the payments will not be made until we accept the delivery of the vehicles. So we're not upfront paying anything. As soon as the truck are prepared, that's when the agreements will be installed. So these dollars will be allocated in each of the annual budgets.
And isn't the fire department short of vehicles, though? I mean, we're putting this over a period of a few years, but shouldn't some of these apparatus maybe get more than 1, 2, or 3?
Yeah, Councilman, so this is the agreement we have with the fire department that we could afford. The cost of 2 pumpers and a ladder are almost the same if you look at the 2 pumpers versus the ladder. So we allocate about the same amount of funds every year for them to continue. And I work with Deputy Chief DeGilio, and this is his proposal to me. So they feel that this is adequate.
Different, somebody contacted me and gave me a totally different story. All right, I'll speak to you, John, about it tomorrow.
Okay. Is there anything else being added to the agenda, John? That resolution?
Just the resolution and with the agreement with the city and the Board of Ed for the share of the pilot agreement.
So we'll add them both together.
Yeah, and I'm going to circulate the actual resolution to the council as soon as I get downstairs.
Excellent. Thank you. All right.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn at 5:49 PM by Councilperson Saleh. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilperson Solomon. On a motion to adjourn at 5:49 PM, all council members present by acclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
We are out of here at 5:49 PM. Thank you so much, everyone here and everyone watching at home. Remember, teamwork makes the dream work. Have a great night. Stay safe.
Clerk, you didn't ask Councilman Gilmore if he wanted to revise his Jets predictions. Thought he was talking a big game.
I'm not even going to go there. I'm not going to go there.
Right. It's rough, man. It's rough.